Hello everyone, I'm Brian and today I'm going to be reacting to 15 things you didn't know about India. I like stuff like this because this is things you can learn. Now I'm not saying everything they're going to say is factually right, but I'll always consider it, and whenever I talk about them I will say I've heard about this or that or this or that, and then people can say no, that's not right, or that is correct, just to confirm or deny what I know or what I've heard. So everything is always secondhand unless you were personally there to experience it. Mind you that. Alright, so this is a request. I do requests. If you have a request, please leave it in the comments below. Please leave a link to that specific video because whenever I look for the stuff that you request, sometimes there's multiple videos and I don't know exactly which one you want me to react to. So please leave a link to that. Alright, so I know some things about India. Very little amount of things about India. So let's go ahead and learn about 15 more things about India that I didn't know. More than likely didn't know. Alright, let's go ahead and give this a shot. Hopefully I don't have to mute it either.
15 things you didn't know about India.
Alright, what's one? Or 15?
Welcome to alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired.
Jeez, well, that's never gonna be me. I'd be
Hello
lucky if I can
Aluxers,
be a
and welcome back to
thousandaire.
another fascinating video. Today we're looking at incredible facts you didn't know about the 7th largest country in the world, India. With a population of over 1 billion people, India is one of the most
Asia is like almost
countries
half
in
the
the
world
world.
population.
Its cultural history is particularly complex
Wow,
and
that's really
detailed,
cool.
spanning 4,500 years of predominantly Hindu philosophy and theology.
Okay.
Thousands of years later, modern India is profoundly different, with its own colossal film industry, a diverse population, and an astonishingly big workforce.
I do
Because
like the red, that was
alux.com
really
is
cool.
dedicated to becoming the world's best resource on the most interesting countries and destinations, we couldn't wait to bring you 15 things you didn't know about India. Number 1.
That's pretty cool.
Hollywood's highest grossing film made 27 times more than Hollywood's highest grossing film. For every
What movie
600
is that
films
though?
Hollywood produces, Bollywood will make 1,000. They're the most profitable films too when you compare the numbers. Hollywood's highest grossing film was 2009's
Not
Avatar,
anymore.
which made $2.8 billion at the box office.
Forgot what.
In stark contrast, the Bollywood film Three Idiots brought in $76.81 billion. Now that's a profit.
Hey, actually, I reacted to that trailer. That looked.
Number
I
2.
think I gave it a pretty good review.
Shampoo was invented in the 16th century, India. Derived from the Sanskrit champu, which means
Oh yeah,
massage.
I remember this from the last
Shampooing
other one.
was invented in India in the 16th century.
Was it
Herbs
15
and
things
natural
invented by
ingredients
India?
were used then rather than today's combination of modern chemicals and fragrances. In particular, gooseberry, sapindus, and fruit pulp. When colonial visitors came to India, they brought the practice of shampooing and hair washing back with them to Europe.
I gotta pause it real quick. I think I remember in my history class, was it Western Europe would, instead of showering, they would just keep constantly putting powder on their face on top of the dirt and stuff. Oh my god, that was terrible. But I mean, it was the trend at the time, I guess, you know. Cover up the smell, I suppose. Or actually, I mean, not very many people bathed back in the day, and being stinky was just, part of everyday life. So you can't exactly judge them for that, but
Number 3. Diamonds were first mined in India, and it was the world's greatest producer. India
was.
was the most productive diamond mining country in the world until diamonds were found in Brazil in the 18th century.
Brazil. I
There
figured
are
in
now 3 active diamond mines in India, and the famous
Brazil, huh?
Kohinoor diamond was found in the 13th century. The 793 carat stone
Whew.
went from person to person and was eventually acquired by Queen Victoria during the British Raj in India.
Okay. Okay, so talk about diamond. I thought Africa, the blood diamonds. I thought maybe Africa was the area that had the most diamonds, but they said Brazil. Huh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I will say though, what was it? Diamonds are just, I believe they're just hardened carbon, and it's so weird that we put so much value to them when I believe they're the one of the most common elements, and we can make diamond. But a coworker of mine did make a very good point. Natural diamond versus made diamonds. Natural diamonds more valuable because it happens naturally as opposed to, processed and made diamonds. But yeah, it's kind of weird that something that's just so common is so valuable and has almost no use. Well, I mean, it has like, drilling and construction has some use. I'm sure there are more uses to it, but in relative to other things like gold and silver and copper, just saying.
Number 4. Elephants in Kerala can treat themselves to a spa day. Punathur Kata Elephant Yard Rejuvenation Center provides elephants with baths, massages, and
That's
soothing
so cool.
pamper sessions. The spa caters to 59 clients and is a way of giving back to the sacred animal. Elephants play an important role in Kerala's
That's
temple
really
processions
cool that
and are
they
a significant feature of the region, so they deserve a massage every now and then.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I certainly hope every single person that owns an elephant treats them right. Treat them like family, treat them like how we all treat our pets. Um, and it's really cool just to see elephants and humans just cohabitating together and having such trust. It's really, really nice to see that. They're just sitting there chilling and the dude just scrubbing them. Oh yeah, come on, man. That's a really cool sight to see. All right, let's see what's the next
Number
thing.
5. The largest religious gathering in India can be seen from space.
Dang, really?
Kumbh Mela is a Hindu pilgrimage which takes people to the banks of the
I did not know. Hindu's pilgrimage. I did not know that.
Ganges every 12 years. The major event
12
involves
years.
ritualistic
Okay.
bathing, devotional singing, religious discussion, and feeding the poor. The attendance figures had to be capped at 75 million,
Oh
making
well.
it the largest pilgrimage
Sorry, just saw something hanging there. That's okay. But hey, it's if it's part of the culture and the religion.
on
I
Earth.
mean, it's not like this necessarily. Oh, a bad spot to pause. Hold on, let me go for it. Okay, that's there's such thing as nudists in the United States, and they're not doing it for religious reasons. They're doing it for their own beliefs and whatnot. But still, I mean, if that's something that's acceptable in the culture, then. But yeah, I didn't know about the Hindus' pilgrimage, and it's every 12 years, and can be seen in space. That is pretty crazy to be able to be seen in space. I mean, this is very large, massive.
Number 6. Ancient Indian civilization is the oldest in the world. We often look to ancient Greece and ancient Egypt, but Indian civilization dates back to 2400 BC, when it was split into 16 monarchies known as the Mahajanapadas. There are even authenticated human remains that date back to 30,000 years in South Asia. The oldest Hindu texts were written between 2000 and 500 BC, as well as the first texts on science, medicine, and astronomy. We actually owe the number 0 to Indian mathematics, who created the concept.
Yeah. Uh, I I knew India was the basis of a lot of things. I couldn't. In the last video that I reacted to about the 15 inventions, I believe it was. I thought the zero was Middle Eastern, but I mean, I learned about this a long, long time ago, so obviously it's gonna be rusty. But obviously it was from the Indians. There's another thing I was thinking of, and now I can't remember because I was thinking too hard. Uh, Welp, I guess I can't say it now because I don't know what it is. Let's maybe if I remember, I'll pause and say something about it.
Number 7. India is home to every major
Hmm.
world religion and doesn't have a national language.
Wow, it doesn't have a national language really. It's kind of like the U.S. in that sense. I don't think U.S. has a national language either, even though majority of the people speak English, probably
Hinduism,
Spanish too.
Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, and Sikhism all have a place in Indian society, with the most dominant being Hinduism and
Hmm.
Islam, covering
Ah,
80% and 14% of the population, respectively. Judaism has
wait,
existed.
wait, wait. I gotta pause. I gotta rewind that a little bit because I want to hear the percentages.
Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, and Sikhism all have a place in Indian society, with the most dominant being Hinduism and Islam, covering 80% and 14% of the population, respectively.
Okay, so 80% Hindu and 14% Islam. So that leaves only was it 14? So 6% for the other religions.
Judaism has existed in India for the last 2,215 years, and some of these smaller religions also featured, including Jain, Zoroastrian, and Baha'i.
I've never heard of
India
those.
also doesn't have a single national language because 1,652 dialects are spoken across the different regions.
That's a lot of dialects. There's so is there not one language that everyone can understand? There is one country in particular that has a lot of dialects as well, but they brought a national language that everyone, I believe everyone does learn. Um, I won't say necessarily America. Even, again, America doesn't necessarily. I don't think it has an official national language, but is it relevant? I mean, it's nice that the people in your country can all communicate with each other and still know their native dialect. I also understand my native dialect to a degree, on top of my national language, on top of English. Yeah, but yeah. So, hmm. Let me know in the comments if is there like a at least a language, whether it's official or not, that most Indians know, and that's a means of communication with everyone. I was actually thinking about this some time ago. It's like I was thinking of like languages, and I was thinking of the Indian language, and I was like, I don't know what that is. I know in China there's two, Cantonese and Mandarin, and one's more prominent in the north, one's more prominent in the south. But I again, I it's just something I heard, and guess I watched some again YouTubers who like speak perfect Mandarin to like the locals and stuff. It's really cool to see the reaction of Chinese people watching a white guy speaking their language quite perfectly. It's really cool. I mean, it's surprising to them, and don't get me wrong, white people don't know other languages other than English. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the next one. Number
Number
8.
8. A polling station is set up for just one voter in Gir Forest at every election.
Hmm.
Every election, Marant Barandas Deshandas gets his local polling station entirely to himself because he's the only resident of Gir Forest.
Hmm.
He's been voting in Indian elections since 2004 and never misses one now that he has his own personal polling station. Mahant is the caretaker for the one temple in the forest in Gujarat, a home he shares with the rare Asiatic lion.
Oof.
Number 9. The Indian
I will say that's kind of nice. You have your own personal polling station. Does he? Wait, I can't remember. Did it say he ran it too?
government has used scaffolding to hide the Taj Mahal when airstrikes are predicted.
Huh.
During the Second World War and the Indian-Pakistan Wars, scaffolding was put up around the distinctive domes of the Taj Mahal to make it less obvious from above. They feared strikes by the Japanese Air Force during World War II, so hid their most famous landmark. More recent threats to the Taj
Wow.
Mahal include the rising levels.
I will say, when I go to India, if I ever have the opportunity to go to India, I definitely want to see this place. It is very well known, and I remember some time ago. Again, this is I'm not I'm talking about something else differently, but it's still in the same subject. I remember some time ago, um, an Islamic extremist group went into, I believe, into Egypt and started destroying a lot of artifacts, a lot of history. I heard it in the news. I'm not too sure how true that is, but I'm sure there are crazy people all over the world, and they'll destroy like priceless artifacts that is kept for knowledge and for well, kept for knowledge really about our past. And I hope none of the artifacts will ever get destroyed. I know is it during World War II, during Germany, I believe. I think they were wise enough to steal these artifacts to keep it for themselves. Stolen is fine, so long as it's not destroyed. It can always be recovered, and I hope the Taj Mahal never ever gets destroyed or touched by anything destructive. Things like these are very, I mean, ancient and can never be recreated. I mean, we can make the Taj Mahal again, but it will not be the Taj Mahal. Not created by the ancient time people, I guess you could say.
Of the Yamuna River, which has cracked the tomb underneath the structure. There have
Wait,
been
wait, wait.
predictions
What did they mean by cracking the tomb? Hold on.
include the rising levels of the Yamuna River, which
Oh,
has cracked the tomb underneath the structure. There have been predictions that the tombs could collapse at any time. Check out our video 15 most expensive man-made attractions in the world to find out what ranks along the stunning Taj Mahal.
okay. I hope they can do something about that. I hate to see the Taj Mahal go crumbling down. that is definitely something that should hopefully last forever. But understand that things will degrade over time, and hopefully, they can upkeep it and I don't know, keep it like new. I suppose it's gonna be very
Number
difficult.
10. Indians invented navigation, yoga,
Whoa,
the world's cheapest
I know
car,
yoga.
and
Cheap.
thorium based.
Hey, cheapest card. Oh, there's another request about I think it's a person on India, like the richest person in India, and we're talking about cars in that one too. So I can't wait to see that. I want to see cars, like all the cars too.
Nuclear power.
Base nuclear
Indian
power.
society can take credit for
Now, of all the things they said there, I know yoga. I didn't know navigation, world's cheapest car. I mean, and then thorium-based nuclear
some of
power.
the most important inventions in the world. They were the first to create the concept of navigation over 6,000 years ago using rivers and seas. Yoga was created 5,000 years ago and has roots in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that flexible, but I would love to try yoga. I mean, wouldn't hurt. It'd be fun, I'm sure, and I'm sure I'd be in pain afterwards. But it's an experience that I wouldn't mind trying out. I tend to be kind of the person that will try just about anything once. I'm not gonna say anything once, because then I'd be lying to you. Because I don't know if there's things out there that I'm not willing to try. But just to be as honest as I can be, I will generally try anything once.
The world's cheapest car, the Tata Nano, which costs around 100,000 rupees, the equivalent of $1,400. And
Ooh, that is pretty cheap. I will say I do watch a lot of car video, not a lot of car videos, but some car videos. Now being really cheap doesn't mean being well made either. But if it's really cheap and well made and it lasts, my gosh.
India is the home of the first next generation thorium reactor. The country is aiming to produce 30% of its electrical power with thorium by 2050.
I hope that's safe. And I'm wondering what the nuclear waste would be. I'm hoping they come up with something very great that can produce a lot of power with very little waste and very little problems. I know nuclear power tends to. I think a lot of people see that as the future, and but I hear like there's a lot of nuclear waste that's really bad. It takes like 3,000 years or however many long for that waste to finally be not irradiated. And the problems with nuclear power plants, especially when you see Japan with the tsunamis and stuff, that is pretty crazy. And yeah, Chernobyl as well. Although I've heard that those plants are actually going pretty good today, which is great. It's all great until something goes bad, and that applies to anything really. But hopefully this is a very safe alternative to whatever nuclear power anyone has. It'll be the future.
Number 11. You can stay at the former Indian royal residence for $88,000 a night.
Now, if I save up from day one and not spend a dime, I might be able to afford that when I'm 120 years old.
If you want to stay at the lap of luxury, forget Paris and forget Dubai. India is the home of the most stunning palaces in the world. Once the home of the Maharajas, there are opulent palaces throughout the country, with some dating back hundreds of years. The Kumarakam Lake
That's pretty
Resort
cool.
hosted Prince Charles's 65th birthday, and the 450-year-old Samod Palace in Jaipur has hosted famous faces from all over the world. Number 12.
Really beautiful places over there for sure.
King Jai Singh of Alwar snubbed Rolls-Royce in the best possible way. India has a long and colorful history of quirky monarchies and extravagant kings and queens. The King of Alwar in northeast India was insulted by a Rolls-Royce salesman when he visited a showroom in London. A very proud man, he ordered a whole fleet of Rolls-Royce cars and gave them to the city's waste department so they could use them to transport rubbish throughout the city.
Well, I will say he may have done that in spite of that salesman, but I think overall Rolls Royce won because Rolls Royce's job to sell those jobs, they don't care what you use that car for. I think for the most part, unless they're very prideful. I mean, selling so many cars is the job of a manufacturer. But hey, you know what? If that prince felt like he won and used use those vehicles as as waste transportation, You know, everyone takes their victory differently. Rolls Royce won and their prince won, so it's all good. That's kind of funny
Number
now, I'll say.
13. 1 million Indians
Ooh.
are millionaires. India has one of the most dramatic wealth gaps in the world, with 35% of the country living below the poverty line. Though
Makes me wonder what the U.S. in comparison is. I'm sure. I don't even know what it is, but it's terrible that we kind of have this. But it's just the nature of life, I think. You know, I don't know if there is a way to get out of having people in poverty. It's
those who live
sad,
way above it live a
but it
very
just might
different
be
kind of
reality.
life. The richest Indian in the world is Mukesh Ambani, who has a net worth of $53 billion. dollars. The 59-year-old made his money in the oil and gas industry, and his billion-dollar home recently made headlines because he chose to build a 27-story skyscraper instead of a sprawling mansion.
Whew, man, that is some architect. I will say, I get a little scared when I see that because there's doesn't look like there's anything supporting here, and I'm sure those beams are meant to cover that support. That is. Now, is he living here by himself or with his family, or is he renting out the other space? I mean, that's pretty. That's a pretty. That's like mansions are big and all, but that's crazy. That is. You have like you could have an entire floor dedicated to theater, an entire floor for kitchen. You got an entire floor for I'll say your office, but your office that is a lot of floors, and that's a lot. Oh, I didn't go a little bit deeper in that one.
Number 14. The first
That's one thing I will say. Like a lot of these things, even though they're giving me information, but it's just sometimes I want to know more. Um, because it's interesting to see how he lives his life, and just a little bit more, not too much more, just to see what he does with each of the space on those. That's crazy.
account of plastic surgery was
Yeah, I
found
knew
in an
about this,
ancient
about the
Sanskrit text.
what Indians
One of the
invented.
first medical texts was the Sushruta Samhita, which can be dated back to the 6th century CE. It's one of the very first examples of a medical text and discusses surgery, incisions, skin grafts, and nose reconstruction. Britain's
Hmm.
first nose job wouldn't be performed until 1814, a worrying 80 years before the Sushruta Samhita would be translated.
But nose cut. That's a lot of cutting.
Number 15. One of India's most extravagant weddings caused controversy because it was too
Too
extravagant.
extravagant. What?
Lasting 5 days and costing $74 million, the wedding of the daughter of a prominent businessman made headlines in 2016 for all the wrong reasons.
Hmm?
The $2.5 million wedding sari, Bollywood royalty in attendance, and gold Bangalore palace setting was denounced as an obscene display of wealth. Millions of
So?
Indians live in poverty, so the wedding was
Oh.
criticized for being in poor taste.
I mean, my outlook on that is, if you have the money, it's you can spend it however you like. It's your money. I can understand also the other perspective, that the fact that there's a lot of people in poverty, regardless where you're from, United States, Europe, Asia, any part of Asia, but to have such an extreme, exorbitant spending, it doesn't mean to show off while you have poor people. I know there's a lot of criticism in the U.S. for stuff like that too, where they have the rich 1%, and they have so much money that they could spend $1 million every year and they're still rich. They could live to 2,000 years old or whatever, and it does suck. I understand both perspectives. It's a bit. I don't know how to put it into words, but one thing I will say, like Bill Gates, I appreciate he does. I don't think he necessarily spends a lot of money. I don't really keep up with his life or anything, but I've heard that he's donates a lot of money to charities, which is fantastic. I appreciate people like him who are rich and who do good. I hear like Nicolas Cage, he donates anonymously to charitable donations so that he stays anonymous. In that, I appreciate people who do things without wanting the credit of doing good. Those people, to me, are so much better, so much, I don't know how to describe it, just better than people who dishes out money and wants to be recognized for it, versus them who gives the money and tries to stay away from being recognized because they do it out of the kindness of their heart as opposed to being recognized. Now, mind you, either way you do it, it's a win-win for the whoever's receiving the money, and it's still doing good regardless. I'm not saying the one who wants to be recognized is trash. I'm just saying because they're still good for donating to a charitable organization to help people who needs help, to help babies that are in need of surgery or just whatever the cause is. It's still good regardless, but I just hold the people who try to stay anonymous to a, I guess, higher. They sit on my totem pole higher than the people who get recognized for it, or you know. But sometimes they can't be helped. They donate and they get recognized for it. But it's not like they're seeking to be attention from it.
There are many stereotypical images of India, but there's so much more to this incredible country than many of us know. The center of many industries and the world's biggest democracy, India has influenced art, literature, science,
Hmm?
and medicine potentially more than any other nation. If you could take a trip to this beautiful, fascinating country, where would you find yourself? In a gorgeous Maharaja's palace, surrounded by palm trees and rural countryside?
I can't afford it. So I'm hoping I could at least visit the Taj Mahal. At least maybe 20 miles away with a telescope so I can at least see it. It's like, yes! Check that off my wish list.
Or a modern apartment in the thick of busy Mumbai?
Whoa, 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 hold on. Let me go a sec. If you take a trip, well, I mean, in a modern apartment. Why would you be in an apartment if you're just taking a trip, like visiting? That second question. Like that doesn't make sense. An apartment, unless you're staying there for like a month, I guess. No, usually apartments are leased for 6 months to a year, and you can do 1 month rents. But usually you stay in hotels if you're there just for a few days.
Bye.
Anything else? Questions? Answers? I will say I could never live in a big city. The traffic is terrible. I'd rather live in a little bit calmer area where there's less people and you can get around a lot better and it's not just crammed full of people. I'd rather be like 30 minutes an hour away from a big city because I know big cities tend to have everything, like the latest of greatest of everything. And I don't want to be too far from that. But at the same time, I can stay 30 minutes to an hour away from that city and still get the benefits. I've tried driving through cities and stuff. It's terrible.
Oh,
Absolutely
you're
terrible.
still here? Here's
Yes,
another
waiting.
bizarre and incredible fact about India. About 40% of the Indian population is vegetarian,
Yeah.
making it the largest veggie population in the world.
The only reason why I know this is because I watch Gordon Ramsay and his trip around the world or his trip around Asia to learn different food dishes. I remember, I think I watched all of the clips from his trip to India, and it's really cool to watch him learn about the Indian cuisine and how majority of Indians were vegetarian. He said he could never be vegetarian, which hey, I will give him credit because I appreciate people who goes out and try to learn other culture and try to incorporate it into their life or try to use it to better their lives or to hell, make maybe even have a spin off the dish. So I don't know, like there's a vegetarian dish here that he really likes, but he thinks he could do better by adding a little bit of meat to it. Now he's tainting the traditional sense of that dish, but I would never ever see it that way. We can still have the traditional dish and then I don't want to say a spin off of it, but like a different take on that dish. I don't want to say I'm always, but I hate to see people who are just so stuck in tradition that it cannot be budged. We can always have the tradition, and we can always have a different version of that traditional dish. It will not be the traditional dish, obviously, but sticking so hard in tradition can be hindering to progress. It's kind of like if we go too far back into tradition, you might as well eat the fish raw and not cook it because that is the way a fish is meant to be eaten. Because you can actually eat fish raw. It has to be quite fresh though, but we don't. We cook it up because of bacteria and all that, and we also add other spices to it. That's also breaking away from tradition, even if I'm just cooking the fish. That's why I'm never too hard in tradition. I'm willing to try out many
Many
different
choose to
things
not eat meat for spiritual and
because you only live
religious reasons,
once
with
in this
greed and
life, and you
pet
might as well try
products
to
often
experience as
ruling
much
their
as
diet.
possible.
Vegetarianism is so influential that KFC, McDonald's, and Pizza Hut had to introduce vegetarian menus
Yeah,
for their Indian franchises to cater to the population.
that's smart. That's good business. You don't force your ideas on other cultures. You adapt to the culture that you go into. So if I were to ever move to India, I would have to adapt to their culture, and I would never force my ideas on them. But I may do things in my house a different way though if I live there. But of course, I would not want to enforce my choice. Like, oh, you can't do this and this. No, it must be done because America. No, no, no. You don't do that. You don't go into another country and enforce your culture into theirs. You integrate into their culture.
The country with the fewest vegetarians is Portugal, where just 1.8% of the population have cut meat from their diet.
Hmm. I don't know if I could ever cut meat though. I mean, I will eat vegan. I'll eat vegan food and vegetarian food. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. You know. No point
Thank
at
you for
not
spending some time
trying.
with us, Aluxer. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video.
Well, there you go. 15 things I didn't know about India. Although I did know some of them. Very few, but I did know some. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.